Okay, today in Matthew, oh, by the way, the new books are over there. We've got one more week in this one, and the new books are over there. If you want to get one before you leave. We're continuing our study in Matthew, and we're at a point now where things are starting to heat up between Jesus and the religious establishment. And so everything has been okay. Remember, I've talked the last few weeks about as Jesus is traveling around and as he's teaching, the Pharisees and Sadducees, they're mixed in the crowd. They're listening to what he's saying because he's known as this prophet, and his teaching is totally different than what the religious establishment has been teaching really for centuries. And so things are starting to get a little heated. They don't like what he's doing because he's challenging the traditional way of thinking, and he's also challenging. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. He's challenging the cultural way of behaving and thinking, but he's also challenging the religious way of thinking and behaving. They don't like what he's doing. He's healing people. Only God can heal people. He's referring to himself as the Son of Man, which is a way that Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew would refer to himself as the Messiah. Whenever you see the phrase Son of Man, he's talking about himself being the Messiah. Wait a minute. You can't be the Messiah. We have a preconceived idea of what the Messiah and who the Messiah is. So things are heating up. And so where we pick up today is, I think it's really no different than today. Today you have primarily two sets of thinking. One is rules and regulation based. The other is relationship based. Kevin in his prayer mentioned the importance of relationship, having a relationship, not only with each other, but with God as well. The Pharisees, let me just say the religious establishment. The religious establishment in Jesus' day, you had to obey the Torah or the Mosaic law, but you also had to obey the regulations that they added to it. There was like 200 to 400 different regulations that they had added to the Mosaic law, essentially the Ten Commandments. So it's centered around rites, rituals, religious observances, and dietary laws. Those four things. There's certain things you couldn't do on the Sabbath. The Sabbath, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. So, but they took it to the nth degree. You could not bear a burden. You couldn't carry a suitcase. You couldn't carry water on the Sabbath because and if you've broken one rule, you've broken them all. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at here, and Jesus is getting ready to, excuse me, in what we're going to look at today, he's getting ready to confront them head on with this whole idea of how you have a relationship, if you will, and I use that in quotes, with God. Is it through relationship or is it through obeying rules and regulations? Okay? First of all, religious rules, verses chapter 12, verses 1 and 2.
At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields in the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath."
Okay. Now it looks kind of benign. Remember that some of the religious establishment, they're following, they're kind of intermingled in this group that's following Jesus. Okay, because they're wanting, as we saw last week, they're wanting to trap him. They've got to figure out something to get rid of this guy. Okay, so if you look last week, he had done some healing. He had pronounced in chapter 11, verses 20-24, he had pronounced some judgment on a couple of towns, and so he's starting to get. What's the word I want to use here? He's starting to get a little more intense. Jesus is, okay, more straightforward. So they were traveling. So when they left, what we looked at last week, they're traveling toward a synagogue. That's where they're headed, toward a synagogue. And so they pass through this grain field. Some people refer to it as a wheat field. Now watch. We watched this YouTube guy. It's really a family. And the name of the channel is Hayden on Harvest. And it's about this family and you follow this family. They live in, is it Central or South Texas? I think it's South Texas, And they travel with their combines and all of their equipment. They travel from South Texas, which is their home, all the way up into North Dakota. And all they do is they're custom harvesters. And this one that when I read this passage, it reminded me of this particular video that he put out. He was walking, he'd stopped his combine. Hayden had stopped his combine, got out, and was walking. And they were doing wheat, and he picked the wheat. I guess it's the head, and he started chewing on it, and he could tell whether it had a lot of moisture. There's a way to tell you a lot of moisture, or if it was dry. And he made the statement, "Ooh, this is pretty good." Okay, that's kind of what's going on here. These guys have been traveling all day long, and they're hungry. You ever been on a trip, and you get hungry, and you don't really want to sit down for a meal, but it's just like a stop and go. You stop at a filling station, fuel up, you grab a candy bar or a soda, whatever, and on your way. Okay. What we do when we travel is we eat a late breakfast. We'll travel a little bit, eat a late breakfast, and then we don't really eat a meal until we get to where we're going to spend the night. That's just the way we do it. But if you've ever gotten hungry and you don't want to sit down to a full meal, you just want a little snack. Well, that's what this is. Notice, though, what Matthew records. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields. So he led them through the grain fields. But it was on the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You think Jesus didn't know that some of the Pharisees were following him? So his disciples were hungry, began to pick some of the heads of the grain and eat them. Uh-oh. Now here's how we know they were following him. When the Pharisees saw it, they said, "Hey," my vernacular, "what are your disciples doing? They're doing what's unlawful." Forget about them being hungry. Forget about their need. They're breaking the law. Do we have any of that today going on in our churches today?
You mean like churching?
Uh-huh.
That's essentially what you're saying?
Some of that still goes on. If you don't attend, it used to be. Now, I'm not saying here, but churches that we've been a part of. If you don't attend small group Sunday school, you don't attend 3 times, and you're a member. You don't attend 3 times, you're off. That's a rule.
That's how it was whenever I was.
Yeah. If you don't tithe for a certain length of time, you're off. Oh, I don't know what scripture they use to back that up, but that's what they do. So they're saying, hey, forget about your disciples being hungry. Now I want to translate that a little bit. Forget about your disciples having a need. They broke the law. The Sabbath. It's unlawful because, see, what are they essentially doing? They're harvesting the wheat. Assuming it's wheat. They're harvesting the wheat. Harvesting is work. You're working. See how they're being microscopic? Okay, they're just picking at every little thing. I mean, just picking at every little thing. So when you start hearing this thing like today, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. Now I know the last 2 or 3 Sundays Scott's been preaching kind of on the vision of the church and the Constitution bylaws. The Constitution bylaws of a church are simply as a guide, and you have to do that when you're even a volunteer organization. Viola belongs to DAR, and they have I don't know if your chapter does, but I know DAR
Didn't you see me here the
national
reading them the other night?
Yeah, the national they have Constitution bylaws. Okay, so any organization, if you're going to have any kind of structure to it at all, you have to have Constitution bylaws. Okay, in my business, I have what essentially is Constitution and bylaw. The reason that it's organized, how it's organized, what I can and basically cannot do. If I were to hire anybody, here's the guidelines for that. Okay, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about your disciples broke the law. Now notice who they're talking to. You think Jesus didn't lead them through this, I'm just going to call it wheat field, on purpose?
I got a question.
Absolutely.
So
Here it comes.
they were walking and breaking the law, right?
Walking itself was not breaking the law.
Okay.
But if you were carrying something or bearing a burden of any kind, that would be breaking the law. And who decides if you're breaking the law? The Pharisees.
Well, that's what I was wondering with the Pharisees following them, if they weren't breaking the law too. But if they were just walking, I guess not.
Yeah, no. Now think about this. So on the Sabbath, what would the priests be doing on the Sabbath? What would that whole religious institution be doing on the Sabbath? They would be essentially working, offering sacrifices, yada, yada, yada. In our vernacular, preaching. So they would be. So it's like, do as I say, not as I do. That was their whole perspective. Do as I say, not as I do. Well, okay, so you do not see here that Jesus told the guy, hey guys, stop. He did tell them that. But he's going to use this now to make a larger point. I love what he does here. Number 2, there's something greater. Chapter 12, verses 3 through 8.
He answered, excuse me, haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priest. Or haven't you read in the laws that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple desecrate the day and yet are innocent? I tell you that one greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.
See, there's that phrase, Son of Man. Yeah.
Susan Vogt is on,
Oh, great.
and Paula said that they are at Michaela's last cheer competition in Springfield.
Well, glad you guys are watching. Good deal. Let me just say, I should have said this at the beginning. If you guys have any questions about the lesson along the line, just shoot them in the comments, and Val will read them, and we'd like to include you guys as well. Okay. So again, there he uses the Son of Man phrase. So they've said, hey, your disciples are breaking the law. Now, what are you going to do about it, Jesus? What are you going to do? Well, he said, now he kind of, let me answer your question with a question. Now, what he's referring to here, haven't you read David? He and his companions were hungry. They went into the house of God. Okay, this is when Saul had gone wacko. Okay, he'd just gone off the deep end. And David had been anointed king while Saul was still on the throne. And Saul swore to kill David. And David and some of his close friends, Jonathan being one of them, they hid out. They were on the run. And he's giving he's giving an incident here where David and those that were with him, they became hungry. Okay, so they were, what's that old phrase from the 20s? They were on the lam. Okay. So now watch. They entered into the house of God. He and his companions ate the consecrated bread. So remember, part of the furnishing, all the furnishings of the tabernacle and the temple, one of the furnishings was the table, what's called the table of showbread. And on the table of showbread, there were 12 loaves of bread, symbolizing and standing for the 12 tribes of Israel. The only ones that could eat it, because the priests were not employed anywhere, they weren't getting money, like from another job. They were the only ones that could eat this bread. Okay, that's why he's saying it was consecrated bread. He and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priests. Now, we celebrate David. David was this great person. David was our king. He was a tremendous person. The house of David and all of that stuff. Okay. Now, what are you going to say about that, Pharisees? Or he gives another example. Haven't you read in the law? You guys going to be scrutinizing us with the law? Haven't you read in the law that the priests on the Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath? So they're on duty, they're working. And you're saying they're desecrating, are they desecrating the law? So he's throwing it right back in their face. Whenever you get into a discussion with someone about, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, and there's always this example / argument that comes up about people who, like in hospitals and whatnot, who work on Sunday. Okay? Well, what are you going to do? Shut the hospitals down. Okay. There used to be, and I think when we moved down to Cuba, I don't know about Sullivan, when we moved down to Cuba in the summer of '72, if I'm remembering correctly, they had what was called the Blue Law.
Yeah, the blue law was repealed while we lived in Bolivar.
We had it here.
Here in Sullivan?
We had a blue law. Yeah.
That was a statewide thing.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 And that was regarding alcohol, right?
No,
That was
anything.
That was
anything.
stores and everything. Okay.
I think restaurants could be open, maybe.
Restaurants, but not anything else.
Well, whenever I worked at Merrimack Food Mart, we had the alcohol section. They put these blinds down on top of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the store was still open on Sunday, but they just closed that part of it off.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but I don't remember grocery stores being open on Sunday.
Yeah, Merrimack Food Mart was.
I think that's when the blue law started to get a little more relaxed.
Yeah, more
But they
relaxed.
did
But
say
when we
no
were
alcohol.
kids.
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
when we
open.
was kids, there was
Yeah,
no
when we
alcohol.
were
There was
kids,
no
no.
alcohol. This would have been like
That's how that was.
77.
It was the blue law, but they laughed.
76,
Yeah.
77 when I worked
And,
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
so,
don't even remember us trying to grocery shop on Sunday because
You couldn't.
we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
No.
Walmart was closed when I started there in '84. They were closed on Sundays.
They were closed on Sundays in '84. Wow. Yeah, because we wouldn't have been living here in '84. No, we
we
weren't.
moved in '86.
I was thinking when the blue laws loosened up in Sullivan was so that the grocery stores could be open, but they still couldn't sell liquor.
That's how it was when I worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Now the people who work on Sunday, are they breaking the Sabbath? Are they? Wait a minute. Hold on. He says here, the priest on the Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath, and yet the priests are innocent. So you have this. What he's getting at is you have this double standard, Pharisees. It's okay for the priests to be doing their stuff on the Sabbath, but not us, not my disciples. My disciples can't even pick a few grains of wheat because they're hungry. Again, when current day, when you start getting into a discussion about some people, some churches, even some Southern Baptist churches, are this way. That it's more rules than it is needs. So if which we've had done before, in the winter your pipe bursts, and it's a Sunday. What are you gonna do?
Your ox is in the ditch.
Oh, so he's gonna mention that here in a minute. Thank you. Whoa, because then you are complicit in asking a plumber to work on the Sabbath. See how it gets all tangled up, so that you're more concerned then about rules and regulations than you are about need. His disciples were hungry, but keeping the rule. So you're gonna go into, it'd be like this. You're gonna go into a place like Applebee's, and you're gonna smell all that food, and you're not gonna eat a thing. That's what it's like. The disciples were hungry. And Jesus, I believe, intentionally led them, knowing that the Pharisees, remember, he's God. He knows what's in the mind. He knows they're going to ask. Now watch. Verse 6, I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. You guys don't see the bigger picture, he's saying. Greater than the temple is here. Remember, in Jewish life, the temple was the central place of their belief system. Okay, let's see. If you had known what these words mean, and then he's gonna quote I believe it's Hosea, I think. Yeah, Hosea 6:6. So now he's like using scripture to call them out. If you'd known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would have not condemned the innocent. You wouldn't be condemning my disciples. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. Now they're getting heated, the Pharisees. Nothing will make someone get heated more than being called out. And they're being called out for their hypocrisy. We've never heard that word before, right? Let's see, what is that saying? What is good for me is not good for thee, or something like that.
Or what's good for the goose
This
is
is good for the gander. Yeah. So what he's doing is he's pointing, but they had such tunnel vision. Remember, this is these rules, regulations, rituals, all the dietary laws. This is passed down generationally. Okay, for hundreds of years, and now he's challenging. Whoa, they don't like it. Now something even greater is going to happen here, and watch the reaction. This is sad. Verses 9 to 14. So I'll read that. Something greater. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, something greater.
Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus, they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "If any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he stretched it out, and it was completely restored, just as the other. But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus.
Wait a minute, if I got the right one.
Did I read the right one?
Oh, sorry. That's me. Okay, so this is how we know that they were headed toward the synagogue. Okay, is going from that place, the wheat field. Now they're headed toward the synagogue, and in the synagogue, remember, you've heard me say before in here, I believe for a believer, nothing happens by accident. I don't think it was an accident that this guy with a shriveled hand was there. I don't know what this shriveled hand looked like, but part of me, and this is just me now, wonders if it was just really bad, like bad arthritis in his hand. My grandfather on my dad's side had severe arthritis in both hands, and they were, I can't mimic it, but they were like this, and he had to slip like a fork or a spoon in between his thumb and index finger and eat this way. He could not move it, and whenever he shook hands like this. That's kind of what I have in mind when it talks about a shriveled hand. Okay. So now watch this, looking for a reason to bring charges. That's their whole motivation. They don't care about someone who's hurting. They don't care. They just simply don't care. Jesus has become a threat to them, and they don't care. Okay? So they asked Jesus, "Hey, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? If it's okay to eat on the Sabbath or harvest on the Sabbath, is it okay to heal on the Sabbath?" So again, he throws back this example, throws it back in their face. Well, look, let me ask you guys a question. If you had a sheep, now remember, sheep were very valuable in those days, okay? If you had a sheep that had fallen into a pit on the Sabbath, what would you do? Would you just leave it there the whole Sabbath? Would you listen to it, whatever sheep do, when they bleat? Would you listen to that all Sabbath? Because the Sabbath went from Friday night, was it to Saturday night?
Sundown to sundown.
Sundown Friday to sundown Sunday. So 24 hours. Is that what you're saying? Watch. Wouldn't you guys? So it's a hypothetical, but it's also rhetorical. Would you guys leave it there? The obvious answer is no. How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? So what value do you put on, let me just say it this way, what value do you put on a person that's in need? Whatever that need is.
Obviously they didn't. They didn't put any value on it.
No.
No, nothing. Because the rules were more important.
How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. So if someone is in need, okay, and they call you and say, or text you or whatever, and they say, hey, I don't know, pick something. I have this need. Would you mind coming and helping me? Would you even think about saying, nah, it's Sunday, man. It's Sunday. Can't do that. I dare say none of us would. Or if we couldn't do it, if it was something we didn't know how to do, you know what, I'll call so-and-so and see if they'll help out. This is so sad. Now, I won't ask for any answers here, but here's a good example. You're on your way to church, to small group. And on the way, you run up on an accident. And there's a fire truck or fire trucks there. There's ambulance. There's debris all over the road. And traffic is backed up. And it's, if you go to the 8:15, it's 10 after 8 and you're just barely going to make it. But you're there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I wonder if we're really honest, don't answer here. If we're really honest, how many of us would be complaining about being late instead of saying, man, I hope nobody's hurt really bad? That's what this is. That's what Jesus is getting at here. Someone is in need, and you guys are telling me that it's more important to follow the rules and just leave it go? Watch what happens now. Then he said to the man, hey, stretch forth your hand. So I'm going to do this anyway. Watch. You guys watch. I'm going to do this anyway. Because the need of the person is more important than the need to keep the rules and regulations. Then he said to the man, stretch forth your hand. So he stretched it out, and it was, notice how Matthew describes this. It was completely restored. Compared to the other hand, just as sound as the other. Just just as strong, just like the other. But here again is the whole crux of the matter. But the Pharisees went out and they had had enough. You called us out in the wheat field. Now you've called us out. How dare you in the synagogue? How dare you? You've made us look bad in front of all these people that have come here to worship. You've done it on the Sabbath. You didn't fall into our trap. So what are we going to do? We've had enough. And from this point now, we're going to see the rest of Matthew. They went out and they plotted how they might kill Jesus. For some people, even in the Christian community, for some people, the keeping of rules is more important than helping people. We'll sing about it. We may talk about it, but and I'm talking about the Christian community in general here. When push comes to shove, we're more about the rules and regulations. Not supposed to do that. Why? Who said? I think I've shared in here before as an example. There is nothing extra holy about 8:15 or 10:45. Those times don't make it extra holy. And the main reason, particularly for Southern Baptists, the main reason why we started worshiping at 11 as a denomination, at 11 was because Southern Baptists originally, and still to a large extent, is a rural denomination. So you had farmers and dairy people who had to get up and milk the cows and feed cows and do this and do that on the farm before they were able to go to church. They were loyal church people and they wanted to go worship, but they had to get the farm work done. Farm work doesn't stop on the Sabbath or on Sunday. So that's why church, and still a large portion of Southern Baptist churches, still worship at 11 o'clock. So that's more tradition than it is a holy time. And if you notice, a lot of churches now, and this is cross-denominational, they'll worship on a Thursday night. They'll have worship on Thursday night and then again on Sunday. They'll do Saturday night, for the Saturday night crowd, and then do another on. Some will do a traditional. I'm giving an example here. A more traditional, like in an early worship. A more contemporary in an early worship. More traditional in 11 o'clock, 10:45 worship. There's nothing extra holy about those times. And yet, we saw a church get, in fact, I got in trouble in a church where I think it was for the Christmas program, we moved the piano from the left side of the church to the right side of the church, and there was a huge blow up. I mean, a huge blow up.
Well, you couldn't hear the piano on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So you see, that's what I'm getting at. It is, and I'm not so much against tradition. I think tradition is good. I mean, we do, the Easter and Christmas cantata. That's traditional. Our families have traditions. I'm not saying that certain traditions, but when traditions get in the way of a relationship with God, you got a problem. Okay? Now, questions or comments?
Okay, I'm going to give you the Catholic thing here.
Sure, please.
Well, here's the deal. If a person was to just sit there and listen to, and focus on that, we as human beings we could make an excuse out of that to never go to church because there's always, I'm helping. I'm always helping.
Absolutely.
But on the Ten Commandments, it says, keep holy the Lord's Day.
Yep.
You know, that as a Catholic, in our religion, it's a sin to miss Mass unless it's through your own fault. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Okay.
But using your example of the accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's not I'm not in control of that. But there's a lot of people, and Pam will tell you, you have people that go to church on Easter and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle there, they forget it. We had one guy one time, a very good friend of mine, name was Fred. I won't go to the last name. But anyhow, after Easter morning, he stood up and said, see y'all next year.
Wow.
Church was packed. And,
But he was serious
he was
because
serious.
Yeah.
so many of them he won't see.
So the point remains is that, I can see what they're trying to get at as far as, putting the rules first. But still, you have to have a little common sense. And I know, and Pam and I have always fought about this. Or not fought about it, but discussed it. Let me put it that way. Because I won't miss church. Like I said, once this is done, I scoot right across the railroad tracks and I go to church at 11 o'clock. Done that for years. And I come here physically, honest to God, because of you. I do. I could care less about going to another Sunday school class. But this is my ritual.
But you
or
get
tradition.
something out of it.
But that's the point. Still remains.
Right.
But I still go to church. And that's where a lot of people will say they get out of the routine.
Yes.
Once you get out of that
Yes.
routine, whether you're sick or, this always ticks me off too, softball. My girls, and they'll tell you, whenever the girls were in softball, I found a church. We didn't know what church it was, but if we had 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I'd get there, but didn't we, Pam?
Yeah, we always.
Yeah,
Regardless,
somewhere.
It didn't even have to be Catholic church.
Didn't
It
have-
was just
As long as it was church. But the
we
point still
couldn't find
remains.
church. We
Huh?
had church in the
Right,
car.
exactly. But the point remains is that there's so many people that will use that excuse because my neighbor needs help putting the fence up. He called me. Well, why can't he do it? 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Too hot. Besides that, I got something else I got to do. I need help between now and then. Well, I got to go to church. I'll help you after church. But no.
But I think as a society, we've lost the emphasis of going to church. The importance of it.
And that's it.
No, I-
Because we're out of the
You
habit.
just get conditioned and you let something else take its place, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I may have related this before. There's been research done by the Barna Group. They're a big survey group, research group, and they focus mainly on Christian churches of all denominations. And they said that with COVID, when COVID hit and churches shut down and went to live streaming, that many churches have never recovered from that. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, we reach a lot of people, through what we do here. I don't know how many through the worship service, but I know I can check for our class. So that's one of those double-edged swords. But some churches, particularly the mega churches, have lost over half, and they've never recovered. That's why you will see, if you really start digging into it, you will see that these huge multi-million-dollar buildings are being vacated because they can't maintain, their budget to keep up these $1 million buildings, because so many some have stopped going altogether. Some have realized, hey, I can sit here in my PJs and drink a cup of coffee and yada yada yada. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, we do it. It's not a bad thing. It's just I think it's just what you were saying, Pam. That once you get out of that, do you want to call it a habit? I don't know.
Routine.
it is.
Routine.
And it makes and you can't deny the fact that Now for me, if I don't go to church on Sunday, that's kind of like, gosh, I'm screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
literally, my whole day is
Whole
screwed up.
week's messed up.
I had a buddy that when we was doing rental properties and stuff like that and getting started, Sunday was no different to him than Monday. But I wouldn't work Sunday. I screwed up more stuff on a Sunday than I ever did on a Monday.
Now, would you not work at all, or would you work
I
like
just
after
work
church?
on the rental property. I mean, well, when you talk about work around the house, mow grass, something like that. You know what I'm saying? But no. But as far as physical labor, as far as to be there to make money, no.
Now, I will say,
if I worked for the phone company and I had to call out, you know, I mean, that was responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with being a nurse or whatever the case. You've got responsibility. Life still goes on, but you cannot lose the fact of your priorities.
Yeah.
Your priorities is what it is. Because at the end of the line, at the end of that rope, you're going to answer for that.
Yeah.
And that's just like what God says. When you go up there and he says, I don't know you.
Yep.
I don't know you. Where was you at?
Yeah, but also, Bob, don't you, I think you also miss the fellowship, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's part of it.
That's what I'm saying.
You need that food.
You
Yeah.
need that
Oh, yeah.
companionship.
Oh, yeah. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feed off of everybody's ideas and stuff like that. Just like this.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't come there, I do. I mean, I miss it. And when Pam's gone, I still show up.
Yep. Yeah.
That's part of my religious life.
And
This
see-
and going across the street.
Yeah, and that's why I like what we do here with the live stream is that, you know, and a lot of you, when you're on vacation, tune in, you know,
Yeah,
or if you're sick and, you know,
The bottom line of the whole thing, and this is, and you got to realize too that Jesus is just trying to get us established. He can't just drop the whole bomb on you at one time and say, "Listen," but as he grows and through his parables of what they do, then he tells you, you got to put me first.
Yeah.
You got to put me first. He ain't saying that now. He's just trying, because if he does that, he's going to have to lose everybody.
Right.
But even whenever he's, so yeah, a lot of people can put that right there and say, hey, it says right in the Bible. You know?
Yep.
Who are you? Hey, you're more about the rules than you are about life. That's not what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Then you put your common sense into play.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the example he gave. Well, if one of your sheep was in a in a pit, would you just leave it there?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
Sure.
So he's talking about compassion.
Yeah. Just don't lose your common sense about who you're here for and why you're here.
Right. Exactly.
Through a lot of this stuff.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Anyone else?
Well, I think also they're finding out, even though there's social media, people are actually getting farther away from each other. Even though they say it's supposed to be getting people together more, but it's actually separating people.
Yes.
And like that's what church is for. Just like what Bob was saying is, fellowship and getting people together.
Very good point. I'm glad you made that. Yeah, and that shows in the research that believers were becoming more and more, as a total, were becoming more and more depressed because, not to the point where they want to take their lives or be on medication, but because of a lack of interaction, personal interactions. Yeah, good point.
Like Bob says, if he doesn't come, then he feels it messes his cycle really up.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Let's pray. Don't forget to get your books on the way out, and we have one more lesson here, and then we'll get into the new stuff. Father, thank you for this lesson today that reminds us of the vast divide between rules, regulations, and rituals, and a relationship with you. You teach us through your Son that relationship is more important. Relationship with others and relationship with you is vastly more important. Help us, God, when we get so caught up in following rules, whether imposed or self-imposed. Help us to back away, get a different perspective, and follow you in relationship. Pray, God, that you would forgive us when we get more involved in the minute details of rituals and rules and set aside relationship. Thank you for loving us, even in spite of ourselves. And I pray, God, this next week that you would use us, that you would bless us, that you would watch over and protect us. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. Thank you all.
That's really good.